Hello there! It is I, Alphahex, back at it again with another tutorial video, which hopefully this time will not be deleted after 2 weeks, when I realize how cringy it was. Why were the previous videos so bad, you may ask? Well, it's a combination of a few things, I suppose. Mostly, it's because I had these 5-second lines written down, and everything prepared in advance, and then I just kind of combined that into one big mesh of stuff, which didn't come as natural as a video with a couple of takes would, if that makes any sense. But I don't want to talk too much at the beginning of this, so I'm gonna try to get into the replays as fast as I can. But basically, I thought it would be nice if we had some, some good educational videos again. Making like a tutorial with testing and all that stuff from start to end is pretty hard. So I thought it would be much easier to start off with, just watching some replays and pointing out mistakes, basically. That's like, it's a lot easier. It's so much easier. I'm just gonna talk about things as I see them, and that's probably gonna be enough anyway. But yeah, sometimes I'll pause it and go over some things. But let's get right into it. You can see it's me in a 1v1 against Muffin Man. UEF against Illuminate, and it's on the map Open Palms, which is designed for 6 players, but it is actually great for 1v1 matches. And it is one of the most popular maps to play 1v1 on in the entire map, at least on later stages, on like higher level of play. It's more appreciated because it's very balanced and you can do a lot of things. It's not too small. If the map was too small, then you wouldn't be able to make any research or airplanes. And also, it's not too big. Maps that are too big basically make land completely, not useless, but make it very hard to use. Yeah, airplanes have have a much bigger advantage over land because of the speed that they move at. But I picked this replay because it's probably the easiest to show. How could I say it? The thing I want to show is very easy to show on this replay. Very easy to explain because it's very clear and there aren't many other things happening which could distract. Yeah. But you can see that me and my opponent both start with triple land factory, which is a very stable build. I recommend it if you don't know what to do. Don't overbuild energy. That's just like the first thing that I have to put out there. You only need like 2 generators to run 3 land factories, or 2 generators for 2 air factories. Air is a bit more expensive on energy and also mass, but yeah, on the energy it's a lot more demanding. But you can see that the builds are fairly similar. Maybe the order in which the factories and the masses and the radar is built is slightly different, but you can see that Muffin Man built the factories definitely sooner. You can see that he has only 5 mass extractors, and the engineers are trying to build, but they do not have mass to build, which means that he hasn't invested as much in the economy, whereas my build is more balanced, and yeah, the factories were built a little late, which means that I might have less units on start, which isn't a problem. That's what I want to show in a second. But later in the game, I'm gonna definitely have a lot more mass and I can afford more factories or research or expand even more, maybe add air. But you'll see Muffin Man attacking right away, which is good because when you don't make any airplanes, you're unable to scout and you're unable to see what your enemy is doing. So if, for example, I was doing research and had like no units, if Muffin Man just waited in his base, he would be in a bad situation. The longer you wait with research, the worse it gets. Research is an investment that doesn't really help early on, but helps you later in the game. Yeah, that's kind of the point of an investment. But I'm gonna pause it now and just show something real quick. Notice that Muffin Man built his factory sooner, and I'm pretty sure they have been building on auto build, unless he just ran out of mass because he didn't have enough extractors to... Oh, that's weird. I just heard an ACU shot when it's paused. What was I on about? Yeah, he invested less in extractors, and I think the minimum to run 3 factories for a good amount of time is 6 extractors. So, well, 1 factory probably ran out of mass, but he still has more units, I think. It might look like it, but I'm gonna explain why. Basically, I wanted to talk about travel time, which is a thing that a lot of players underestimate. Here we started out with similar builds. Muffin Man built his factories even sooner, so he should have more units. But you can see that at least like 7 tanks, yeah, 7 actually, that's a pretty good guess. 7 tanks are on the way to the battlefield, to the front line. You can see that they're mostly in the back doing nothing, because Muffin Man has to walk all the way from here to my base. He's fighting on my turf. Whereas my tanks only have to travel a relatively short distance, and they're already there. They're already where I need them to be. So if we zoom out, you have these 7 tanks on the way, plus... I'm gonna count the mobile missile launchers as tanks. They have a similar build time, but yeah, just so you don't get confused with that. So 7, and that's about 16, I think. God, I hope I'm not wrong. But yeah, this should be a similar amount. I think I paused it a bit late. I wanted to pause it sooner. But this should do as well. 15, 16, 17, 18. So I actually have 2 more tanks, but that's a small detail. This difference that you can see here is a lot more obvious for, well, because of travel time, as I explained. His tanks have to travel all this distance, and when you zoom in to this spot, we should have more or less equal amount of units, but because we're fighting much closer to my base, what ends up happening is that on the front line I have a much bigger advantage. So when you find yourself against an opponent who has a similar build, not a similar build, an opponent which also makes more or less the same amount of land units, you don't want to be this aggressive. You want to keep your distance and expand, which I'll explain a bit later on. But yeah, you can see just how much more damage I'm dealing because I have so many more units. Now this is the midpoint of the map, but I don't really need to be scared of pushing more, because just on this little fight, he definitely lost more tanks. I've been outputting more damage, and his losses are definitely greater, which means that I still should have more units, even when I'm pushing him back. Also, his commander is basically unusable. He tried to tank for the tanks. Yeah, he tried to absorb some of the damage, which is good. Overextended a bit, so he's pretty close to death. He stayed for just a little too long in the fight, but you can see that all his units are basically gone. I think he tries to go for a draw here. He walks towards my ICU. He's hoping that he'll kill it with the nuke. Actually, no, he just gives up. Yeah, and it's over, just like that.
Commander destroyed.
That was like 12 tanks there. I can't remember very well, but you can see that just because he was too aggressive and went in too fast, he was fighting with less units than I was. Therefore, I had an advantage, and I could easily win without even like being better at micromanagement or something like that. And I'm gonna explain what to do when you find yourself in this common mirror situation in the next replay. Welcome back, everybody. This is the second replay where I wanted to show how to react when you find yourself in a mirror situation where your opponent also starts out with triple land factory. I mean, the same technique can be used in a few other situations, but I don't want to get into that just yet. I watched the previous footage, and for some reason, the cursor cannot be seen. I don't know how to fix that. I've looked through the entire settings of NVIDIA Experience, which is an awful program. Like Fraps from 2000 is so much better and so much easier to use. And also I've noticed my mouse is very clicky, so I apologize for that. I don't really see a way to fix that yet. But now for the replay. Oh, thunder. The replay. You can see me in the top right corner again as an Illuminate, starting out with, I think, the same build. Yeah, the same build against Artie, which is my my friend who has around 400 hours. The placement is a bit odd, but I don't recommend focusing on details like this so early. You definitely have to learn how to correctly like space them out in the future. I'm not talking directly to Artie, just to the audience. Anyway, again, similar situation. This time we should have almost the same amount of land units. Yeah, he definitely spent more on extractors sooner, which is better, I think, than Muffin Man. So the factories should be running non-stop. Although engineers should be assisting, that's quite a waste. Like you get plus 33% from one engineer, and yeah, don't assist the same factory with two engineers. Right now, what you should do is something similar to this. Yeah, like AC11 factory and engineers in the back on each. Well, not in the back, he has it placed a bit differently. But that really boosts the speed at which you build units. But now I think he should have one more tank. I haven't paid much attention at start. It looks like one tank is stuck inside the factory. Yeah, there you go. That sometimes happens with pathfinding in any game. But again, he's much more aggressive. I don't have to be, because I see on the radar range. Oh, I can't show it on the... Yeah, I can't show it because the cursor is invisible. But like, I should be able to see with this radar somewhere around here, I think. Like this area. And I can clearly see that he had to start out with triple land factory. Or two land factories. But yeah, I can see that he has a lot of units. So I don't have to go forward that much. But if you don't see anything with the radar, you definitely want to go forward and get some intel. Yeah, maybe even use an engineer radar. These engineers on any faction have a very large radar, bigger than the ACU, which you can use if you don't want to build a radar station, which is very fragile and can be taken out by like a TML or something. TML on a factory, not TML, the Aeon structure. So yeah, he goes in, but again, travel time is working in my favor. I'm playing more defensive, therefore I should have more units around this area. Also, another thing, he kind of forgot about his units. He went too far forward with his commander, so like he's gonna take some damage for... Like, he's not gonna get anything out of it. He takes damage, but doesn't really kill any units. You want to keep the units close to your commander when you're trying to shield for them, otherwise it's no use. But you can see that I instantly just repair him to heal the damage, which is free. But he did not bring an engineer. And he's not assisting the factories. But yeah, details. So already, like, I got some free damage onto his commander. Not sure if that's how you say it. Yeah. But basically, you can see that I did some damage and didn't really lose anything. But he still insists. He still wants to go in. But he's keeping his distance for now. He's not running into the army like Muffin Man did. And yeah, he changes his mind and goes back. So, what you want to do in this mirror situation? Basically, I'm gonna try to like think you through the process. When you're in the situation where the person who goes in first loses, nobody wants to attack. You want to stay in your base and wait for the tanks to come, unless like there's some harassment, but I'm gonna explain that later. That's like the basics, yeah. But when this happens, when you have a situation where both you and your opponent have the exact same amount of units, you want to invest into something else while having barely enough units to defend and relying on travel time. So there are two things you can spend your mass on. You can either build some research, or you can expand and yeah, take more extractors. And then you can build more factories later on. He tries expanding as well, you know, he takes more mass. I don't know if that's what you would like to go first. Like, this is a pretty easy spot to defend. So he probably should have taken that first before this one in front. Finally, you can see the engineers assisting. But yeah, I'm just sending like one tank to see if he has any mobile artillery. That's not very important. But yeah, when you go forward like this, when you expand, you want to only take things you can defend. And I think you can still defend this pretty easily, but he didn't really do anything. He was a bit too far back, you know, so I'm gonna basically get a free kill there with the missile launchers, which have great range and are very versatile against structures. The way you would defend that is just kind of go forward and force me not to get into this spot. But yeah, as I said, you only want to expand into spaces you can defend. If you take too much stuff at once, you won't be able to protect it, and you're gonna lose mass from it. It's an investment, like I said. You spend mass, but it takes some time before you get the mass back. So you want to hold the position until that happens. But yeah, you can see that I'm still running only on 3 factories and keeping enough units to fend off any attacks he might try, which he isn't trying right now. So I'm not really stressed, you know, I can focus on like thinking about where I want to go, what do I want to research. And yeah, you can see I've already taken this little 4 mass expansion on the, like this 4 mass spawn point on the side of the base, and a lot of the mass in the back. About taking the mass in the back, I don't recommend doing it against airplanes. Like, the moment you see your enemy has airplanes, you just want to stop and not go into this position, because that's really hard to protect. And even with anti-air turrets, you're probably going to spend more mass on defending the position than he does, like on the airplanes or some shit like that. And you also don't want to really go there against bots. I think that's always a hassle to protect. But this area on the side is quite easy to protect. God, I've said that like 3 or 4 times now. With your units, yeah. Doesn't matter if it's against air, land, I don't know, artillery. Maybe not that, but yeah, you get the point. It's close, and they're very grouped together, so in case of an attack, you can just like shield the position up or like put one turret behind the mass and yeah, have that as some help. Yeah, so right now I should be much further ahead on economy, because I've expanded much sooner, and I should be getting more mass now than he is. It's kind of like a Cold War right now. Yeah, nothing's really happening. You have two sides that are just kind of watching each other, waiting for an opportunity to attack. But soon he's going to make a mistake, which you don't want to make against Aeon. He tries to split his units. Early on, it's great, but against Aeon, against teleportation, it's not a very good idea this late into the game. You're gonna see why. Some pathfinding derp there. Yeah, I see. You see, I realized that later and moved the units back. But I'm gonna slow this down a bit and show you what happens. Don't forget about travel time. Well, he sent some units to the right, and you can see that this is an obstacle. You cannot get through that. You have to go around. And the time it takes to go around is long enough to allow me to teleport like all of my units there, while like he sent some of his units to the right. But yeah, you'll see that happen soon, I think. I should have teleport now from all the research I made after getting all the mass from taking so many extractors. But yeah, you see, the moment he has these units too far away, I jump in, and now you can see that my entire land army is attacking like a third of what he has. So this is gonna die really fast before any reinforcements get there. Like this late into the game, you don't want to split your units as much versus an Aeon. You always want to be on the lookout for teleport. There you go. Like you can see that most of most of the dead units on the ground are UEF tanks, and I barely lost anything at all because I had so many more units on that spot. But now you see I really abused the fact that his tanks move slow and just jump around the whole base. Yeah, there's not much he can do at this point. You got some nice spread there against mobile artillery. The way you do that is you just kind of... either you can put the units into control groups and use numbers, or you can just drag and select them on the way, yeah. But you want to keep... Oh, whoops, sorry. You want to keep changing direction against mobile artillery as often as you can. Yeah, you can see that left and right movement also works against tanks because they still shoot projectiles, yeah. And also you want to spread the units as much as you can while still having the back tanks firing. And it's over. I don't think, yeah, that's... I don't think you can do anything against this now. Just jump on the commander and, yeah, he has no units to do anything against that.
Commander destroyed.
So basically, when you find yourself in a stalemate, you always want to invest into something instead of just kind of waiting in your little corner for what's going to happen. And the things you can invest into is mass and research. And it's usually safer to invest into mass, because later on you can add research stations with the mass you get from the extractors you've built, yeah. Or you can also make some airplanes, which is definitely recommended for late game. Doesn't matter if your enemy started out sooner. Late game, you expand over such a large area that it costs more mass to build anti-air turrets than it would like to well, you're still gonna need some anti-air if your opponent started out earlier, but it's much more efficient to make fighters. But yeah, again, I'm getting into things that are a bit more advanced probably, so I'm gonna just end this here and talk about it later, maybe. So yeah, see you in the next replay. Alright, this is the third game that I'm going to show. Again, you can see Artie in the bottom left corner against me in the top right corner. Artie has the faction Illuminate, Aeon, versus UEF. Again, no, what? I was Illuminate last game. Yeah, it swapped basically. He's Illuminate now, and I am UEF. The ending of the previous replay was a bit awkward, but yeah, that's how things go when you try to do this in one take. I thought I would show something a bit unusual. I think it's better that I'll like explain the air and land builds in my second video, where I think I'm gonna play some 1v1s with a live commentary, which is going to be a lot harder because, yeah, you need to focus, and like half of the video I'll probably just be silent, and sometimes I'll spew out a few words. Anyway, you can see me doing the same build. Gosh, the originality. It's not even my build, it's a build from Polar Bears. Yeah, he's a cool dude. He sends replays and shit. Not important, not relevant. But it's a good build. And then you have Artie with triple research, which is quite a gamble. You cannot adapt to many things with this build. There are just some strategies that you cannot win against when you encounter them. Whereas like 1 air 2 land or triple land is definitely a lot more balanced. But yeah, I built the radar and I see that there are no units in front, which is a bit suspicious. So I go forward as soon as I can, as soon as I've gathered enough units. Yeah, I usually like to have a little group in case there's some surprise on the way. I think already expanded a bit too much. Yeah. When you do research, you won't have like any units at start to defend, so turrets are your only hope to slow down the enemy before you get like stronger upgrades. So you see those masses are gonna die before they can give anything. Like I think it's 0.6 per second mass, like at start, but yeah, they level up, so the longer they're alive, the more they give. But you can see that was definitely not enough time to give back 100 mass, which is the cost of the extractor itself. But this is why I said that you want to go forward when you don't see anything with land. Because if you encounter research, you can shut it down before your opponent can upgrade anything, like experimentals or ACU upgrades in this scenario. But yeah, immediately switch to missile launchers, because your enemy doesn't have any units in this case, so their only way to slow you down is turrets. And missile launchers are able to fire further than turrets, and they actually do the most damage of any basic land unit. They're just not as accurate, so they only work against stationary targets, which are structures. Yeah, turrets. So they're very good against that. You can see him using the range on his commander a lot, trying to like get some free kills or damage at least when I cannot fire back. And since he has the movement speed on his commander, I cannot really chase him around the map. In the fourth replay, I'll show you real quick what you don't want to do. When I tried the triple research build against, I think, Muffin Man again? Yeah, Muffin Man from the first replay. In there you'll see what you don't want to do. But basically, when you're against research or like double air or something, you want to push really hard. You want to go forward, and against airplanes, you only need like some mobile anti-air or maybe one turret around this area. But you can see that this early on, he cannot stop what I'm doing. Like, this is too soon for the research to really give him the ability to defend against defend against this sort of attack. Later on, he would probably get something like Overcharge, which is very effective against land units, but you don't want to wait until that. You want to attack as soon as possible and do as much damage as you can. I think I stayed a bit... Yeah, I'm taking most of the damage with my commander, which isn't... It's probably not as good. So, like, I try to retreat a bit so I don't die to that. And you can see I just destroy his base as soon as I can, so he doesn't get the upgrades he wants. And yeah, the game's over in 5 minutes. I think it is able to sort of defend against triple land. I mean, it's a gamble, as I said. If you do triple research versus triple land against a player who knows what he's doing, I don't think there really is a way to defend. But against an average player, you can kind of just build like one land factory in the back, make your own tanks, have a turret under a shield or something. Actually, yeah, the factory should be more in front. Oh, just gonna pause this a bit and talk. And yeah, you just want to hold your enemy until the research, which is the investment, starts paying off later in the game. But like those first few minutes are gonna be hell, yeah. And you definitely don't want to expand as much. Usually you can only take like these 4 mass extractors, or 5. But even the 5 is still a bit hard to defend. Yeah, with these 4 mass extractors you can just put like one turret there, or a couple overlapping, and like all your base is protected basically. Not against missile launchers, but it's gonna slow the enemy down. You can see that I have no research stations, but still I got enough research from killing the entire base to upgrade Afterburn, which is basically negating the movement speed on his commander. And yeah, instead of like him being far away, shooting, killing the stray units, you can get really close and just, yeah, the damage output of all the small units combined is definitely greater than the commander itself. But yeah, that was a quick replay and just like an extreme example of what to do when, yeah, you have land units and you're up against someone playing defensive, someone who invested into something that's going to pay off late game. Actually, I think this might just be called like a tutorial for a triple land build, seeing it's like in every single replay, and yeah, I'm specifically showing how to play with that build. It's not what I was really going for, but yeah, should be good enough. Anyway, let's move on to the next replay. Here we are, 4th game, and yeah, I'm sorry, it's not actually what you shouldn't do against free research, but it's like a regular 1v1 match between me and Osmos, and Osmos is definitely much better than any of the previous players I've shown. Not to offend them, but yeah, just in all honesty, Osmos is way above him. But again, I'm doing the same build. God, I should really learn a new one. Well, I like it. It works against a lot of things, yeah. Anyway, you can see Osmos making an air factory for a change, and yeah, you'll see probably not the best way to react to it, but like a much better way to react to air, rather than just building turrets everywhere and freaking out and, yeah, staying in your little corner, not really attacking or doing anything. I tried to make this video short, but I looked at like the previous footage and it's like, gosh, I don't know, 30-40 minutes? I can definitely see why like someone like SteelSpeaks can pump out a video per week. I admire the dedication, yeah, it's amazing. But it's not as hard as I thought it would be. Like, these things get really long really fast. And it's relatively short replays too. Like, I don't understand how I've managed to say so much against, not against, about these games. Yeah, these 1v1s. Anyway, you can see immediately he scouts. He sees what I'm doing. He adds a land factory. Actually, I'm not sure if he did that before or after the scout. But yeah, it is optimal to wait for the scout and then like add a land factory in case your enemy has land, so you can defend both using travel time and, you know, the bombers. You're basically forcing your enemy to spend some mass on anti-air, whether it's turrets or mobile anti-air, and therefore like you're gonna catch up just a bit with the tank production, you know, the basic core unit production. Immediately he looks around and sees if there's anything he could bomb. Usually when you're bombing, you want to go for engineers first, because they can repair and build, and they're also very squishy. They don't have that much health. And right after killing engineers, you go for mass. Or you can go for radar if it's not well defended, but here it's like ready to be put under a factory shield. That's like the placement I was talking about. You can see that. I don't want to get into that. I've already wasted too much time. But yeah, he's flying around looking for some empty spots. I haven't actually built any anti-air yet, except for that little guy. Yeah, so he should probably bomb the radar or something. And yeah, I should have definitely gotten an add-on on this factory at least, which is what you're gonna see. Like, I'm gonna get punished for that a bit. He notices that I don't have any anti-air in here, and he's gonna start bombing the units. So I'm gonna lose like one tank there, I think, before I manage to finish the add-on. Yeah, I just stopped the factory and built the AA after I've realized that I probably should have built it sooner. But yeah, you don't want to spend more mass on anti-air than your enemy spend on airplanes. Like, you can see that I haven't even built any add-ons in the back yet. Oh, sorry. Because the engineers can repair each other, or like the masses. So with 3 or 4 airplanes, he's not gonna do that much damage. So you want to spend as little as you can on anti-air, basically. But yeah, now I'm just waiting to get a good amount of units again. Maybe it's not the best thing to do. Like, this is where you get into personal opinions. Yeah, like, some people would prefer to just... you know, some people would prefer to just go forward as much as they can with as little units as they have, and just build a turret and use that. But I prefer to do this, yeah. Maybe in the future I'll change my mind. Maybe someone will convince me in the comments. We'll see. Looking at you, Unknown Desire, and your 10 row long comments explaining the detailed mechanics of everything. It's not a bad thing, but yeah, it's a bit of a meme. You can see again me attacking, and oh god, I think I've already missed that. Alright, let's say I didn't attack. Osmos, he has radar, he sees my units. If I didn't attack, he would just have his like 2 land factories, and he would keep making airplanes and expanding, you know, taking over the map slowly, which I cannot do, because I cannot afford to protect like all these areas with anti-air, or make my own fighters at this point. So I'm restricted to this base I have right now. And yeah, I have to try to do something with the units, or stop making the units and expand to the side maybe. But when I attack, he sees it with the radar, and he has to prepare a bit, because this amount of land units alone is not enough to defend all this. So the moment he saw me moving in through the middle, he built a factory shield and a turret. So already, just by movement, just by going in, not even having any exchange of bullets, he already spent 190 mass on the PD, well, I think it's like 190 mass. Maybe it's 200, but 190 with discounts. But that's not important. It's like 300 to 400. Make that 500 to 600 because you just added another shield. 500 to 600 mass. No, actually, shields aren't that expensive. They're like 125, I think. So yeah, that should be like 400 mass, more or less, spent on defenses, which are preventing me from just going into space and destroying it like I destroyed Artie Space. If you still remember that, you probably should. Yeah, it was the last replay. But yeah, now I see that this isn't gonna be as easy to get through as I thought. Mobile artillery isn't very easy to play against. And yeah, he's using the PD well. Like, he can retreat into the PD if I get too close, and he's just using the high range on mobile artillery. Mobile artillery works very great against large groups of units, which is what this is. This is a pretty large group of units. Some may not think so when they like play rush timer 20 minutes and yeah, don't attack at all. Just wait and what the fuck? Just wait until they have like unit cap maxed out and then go with that. But you can see Osmo stopped building anti-air, so I think maybe even building that turret was a bit too much. I think I spent more mass than I should have. Maybe I should have built the radar sooner. And the radar right here should see in the back, I think. And I should be able to see if he's continuing to build airplanes and then like add an anti-air turret. But yeah, I try to expand to the side. Again, back is not recommended, but it is possible. And yeah, I take this little middle part because I know he cannot go outside that PD at this point. He can only use his airplanes, and an anti-air tower here protects a very large portion of the map. Like, he has to go around that turret every time he tries to bomb something in the back, which increases travel time and increases the amount of units that are gonna get to the back. But yeah, I've made some mobile artillery. Not sure if it's a good idea. Maybe I should have gone for something else straight away. But again, I try to attack a bit. Some ground fire there. Some exchange. Not much dying. I have like this little tank in front trying to distract the artillery so it doesn't fire on like the main cluster of units. Gosh, I'm saying like a lot. That's not good. But yeah, you can see that he sends in his airplanes. Spread units, very important. I could have done a better job there, but when you're getting bombed or when you're getting hit by mobile artillery, you want to split into multiple smaller groups and just send them, send every one of them like their own way. Because, you know, bombers, they drop bombs and they explode and they deal damage to multiple units at once. So if you spread them out more, less units are going to be affected. Whereas if you just like clump them together like this, one bomb dropped in here, oh god, it's loud, could damage like 5 tanks once. Yeah. But if you spread it a lot, then maybe like only 2 or even 1 tank is gonna get hit. Another thing, when you're against airplanes, when you expand to the side without building anti-air, which is something you want to do only when there's like small amounts of air. If you had a lot of airplanes going away from your base with your commander like that would be very dangerous. But yeah, in this case you want to use the commander because the commander has a lot of health and he cannot be easily killed. Whereas you only need 8 bombers to kill 1 engineer. So if I like started to build an anti-air tower, because I see him coming in with the airplanes, the engineer could be killed before he finishes that tower, and then he can just kill the turret before it's built. But when you have your commander there, you need many more bombers to kill him. So he has a lot more time to build that anti-air tower if he needs to. But you can see I don't even have to build it before he moves in. I have a ton of time. Yeah, you can see Osmos gets a megalith. So he starts making an experimental gantry, and he's still like looking for places he can bomb with his airplanes, which is good. You always want to try and find some exposed extractors, maybe, which aren't protected by anti-air, and that can do two things. Either you're gonna bomb the extractor, not lose any airplanes, so hooray, you did damage and didn't lose anything, so you get into, you're getting into an advantage, or you force your enemy to make some anti-air to protect that area, and you force him to spend some mass on something, and you didn't really spend any mass on, like, you didn't lose anything. Again, like when I killed, when I forced Osmos to build like some turrets when I was aggressive and trying to get into his base. You'd think that I could go for these sides, but you cannot do that when you're up against air, because the units would die to bombers before they get there. And like sending all the anti-air with them would be inefficient. You have to still keep some with like your main cluster. And if I just went there with my main cluster, if I moved all these units to the side, he has some units of his own, so you could just go through the middle and destroy my whole base or something. I'm gonna explain that a bit later on in future videos, like where you want to position your units, where is the most optimal place. Let's continue. You can see me also building an experimental gantry, land gantry, that is. So I was a bit late on that. I'm not sure why. Maybe he got some research from killing. I don't know. Maybe I just didn't have the mass for it. That's probably it. But yeah, you can see we have more or less the same amount of mass. I think he has more, but now he's expanding to this point, so he's gonna have more. So I have to work on something other than just, quantity of units produced. But yeah, that's what happens with airplanes. You can afford to take a lot more mass than your enemy. I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting a I wasn't expecting a megalith so soon. So you can see the units clumped, and once I notice it, I kind of panic and just, try to get out of range as fast as I can, and use the. I can't really get an angle on that, but yeah, you can see there's a hill, and the megalith can't really fire through that. You can see the lasers hitting the ground, and similar situation with the cannon. But yeah, I go back a bit, and I'm just buying time before I get my fat boy out. So I just abandoned this like little thing I've built here, because that's not possible to defend with this I have right now. And I have to wait for my fat boy to get there. And I think fat boys have a great advantage on this map, because they fire in an arc instead of a straight line. And you can see that goes over hills, and also it has great range. But it's not as accurate. The lasers fly much faster, I think. And also, their distance is shorter because it's a straight line, not a parabola. Yeah. So it's not as easy to dodge the shots as it is when you're against a fat boy. But with fat boys, you want to wait until you have more than one, because one isn't enough to really damage. Because like I said, you can easily dodge the shots, but when you have more of them, it's not as easy to avoid the fire from the fat boy. But with megaliths, it's not that big of a deal. Also, fat boys have trouble moving, not moving, they can move and fire at the same time, but they have trouble changing direction and firing at the same time. Because their cannons don't turn as fast, I think. They're just, a bit derpy with that. You're gonna see that around here when I try to go around the factory. Actually, I'm gonna slow it down, and maybe you'll see it. So now you see he's going to this position, and when I change, he stops firing. Not really. He should in a second. No. I think the main cannon, like the one in the middle, stopped firing for a second, but it wasn't as obvious in this, as it usually comes. Maybe, yeah, now you see it. Now you see it. Did you see that? He just stops firing when he's turning around. Because the cannons cannot keep up. But you can see I'm really using the shield of the factory to not lose too many units to the megaliths. And yeah, you just want to use the range on the fat boys. You don't want units to get close to them, so you just move them back. While keeping the small units far enough with the rest of the army you have. And I think he got a bit too close there. I don't know if you saw that little glow on all of the extractors, but that's mass cannon upgrade. So every single extractor is a turret now, which is very good when you have fat boys. Because, again, you have a turret to retreat to if he gets too close. And he can use the range in a similar fashion that he was using the range on the artillery and retreating back to the turret. But yeah, I lost like some of my base there. I lost the mass, radar, and land factory, which yeah hurts, but it's not as bad. Like now I have an entire graveyard of units. Probably most of those are his units. I think I lost less than he did. Didn't really damage his megaliths, which is disappointing. But yeah, he's probably not going to be able to save those. You can see him trying to dodge the shots, but you're going to see it in a second. He changes direction too fast. So the fat boys are kind of averaging in on the middle, but you want to change direction when the shots start hitting you, or like a second before. But yeah, basically the slower the projectile, the slower you want to change direction. When you're up against bots, you can still kind of dodge those with tanks or bots of your own, but you have to like just spam the crap out of the right mouse button. And yeah, you want to change the direction there as fast as you can. But now you can see me using the hill to avoid any fire from the megaliths. And I think I'm gonna get in too close with these because I like focused on something else. Yeah, I still have to work on my micro a bit. Like I've started playing the game recently, not a few months ago. I mean, I stopped for a few months and started playing like a couple of days ago, I think. So you can see me like building something here and maybe moving the units here, and I forgot about this, and they got in way too close. So that's gonna hurt a lot. I'm gonna lose all these small units, I think, that I just used to, you know, I used them as fodder to avoid losing a fat boy. And yeah, but I still did some damage to this, which is why I went there in the first place. Oh god, yeah, too much happening at once. You can see Osmos researching jump jets, which is pretty effective. And when that happens, you want to spread your units again, and the fat boys, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Just spread your units and don't have like all fat boys at one spot. You know, you have to have them as far from each other as you can, because then like he jumps here, he maybe kills that guy, but you know, he has to walk the rest of the way to the other ones. I don't know if that's a really good explanation. But I also wanted to talk about the airplanes. You can see me building the airplanes much later on. But yeah, I'm using an upgrade on land units, which gives all of them anti-air. So I cannot really play offensive with the fighters. I can't fight anywhere else than my army. But yeah, they're just defensive. They're there for, oh god, they are there to protect the units, and the units protect the airplanes with the anti-air kind of. If I had only the airplanes with no anti-air, I wouldn't be able to fight his air. You know, he would have more airplanes, and he could just first kill the first kill the fighters and then bomb the units. Yes. Now you can see him researching Cicada, which makes these units invisible, but I think he's outside range of the Cicada. He's not controlling it very well, and now it gets in front of the megaliths, which is, you know, you want to have it in reverse. You want to have the Cicada behind the megaliths. Yeah, he definitely needs to practice that a bit more. You can see him using jump jets again, but That's not enough bots to really do anything at this point. Maybe, yeah, detonate, but like he killed 1 unit with that, and did tiny damage to the fat boy. So that was like 8 bots, I think, 10 bots, more or less, wasted. But you can see that I haven't lost a single fat boy since the start of the game. I'm keeping an eye on them, except for the time I went all the way to here and almost lost them. But yeah, I'm protecting them fairly well. And even though he has more mass, because he expanded sooner, and he has a stronger economy, I'm winning because I'm not losing as many units. You can see 2 dead megaliths in here, but not a single fat boy. And also, this fight that happened in here, I didn't lose that many things compared to him. So, even when he has more mass, he's not wasting it, but yeah, he has larger losses. And yeah, now you can see me moving in with the airplanes when he tries to bomb. I don't know if that was like the perfect, not the perfect, but I don't know if that was even a good oh god, yeah, this is just hard to look at. Yeah, I focused on spreading the units and forgot about the airplanes again, and they almost died fighting outside the anti-air. I only want him to fight above my army. Except for now, because now apparently he lost all of his bombers and now I have more fighters. So I'm not restricted to fight only above anti-air. So I can start building bombers or AC-1000s, and yeah, maybe even kill the expansion in the back, which I'm scouting constantly with airplanes to see if he has like nuke or artillery. Artillery is very effective against fat boys because they have such trouble changing direction, and you'll actually see him using that later on. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it looks like I'm gonna lose 1 or 2 fat boys there, which got a bit too far away from the P shields. They didn't retreat as fast, yeah. But yeah, when you have a high range unit, you just want to stay outside. You want to stay as far as you can while still shooting. You can see the megaliths cannot fire back, and the only way for them to fire back is to run towards me and get in range. But I can go like back as far as I can, as far as I want to. And now it's over. Like, I don't think he can really do anything at this point. If I didn't have any airplanes, this would definitely be the time to make them, because now that he cannot win land, his only option is like some tricky strategy where he tries to jump jet with all units on my commander. It is assassination, so once you lose the commander, it's over. Or he could like build gunships in the back and try to use those. So that's why you kind of want to prepare for those things instead of just pumping out more land and using that. But I'm just gonna speed this up. This should wrap up pretty quick. You try to build shields, not sure why. That's not very efficient against fat boys. Now the artillery starts firing. And yeah, I probably should have prepared for that better. Artillery does a lot of damage, but again, it's not accurate against moving targets, same way the missile launchers aren't. But when you have this much land, you cannot really dodge the shots, you cannot really avoid them. So you see me get a lot more aggressive, sometimes even getting in range of the fat boys, because I just want to finish this as fast as I can before he can get too much artillery and destroy the fat boys. Also important, you can see, I think I have like one factory just sending out engineers on patrol to heal and recycle.
Commander destroyed.
And yeah, when he sees those airplanes move in, he just suicides. When you hit this point where your enemy has that big of an advantage, that many more units, you can't really win it. Unless you do some of the tricky strategies, but when you prepare for that, having radars and intel and airplanes, yeah, that is averted as well. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't really want to put any more things into this video, which is already way too long. Don't like it, do not subscribe, and no, there is no Patreon. Goodbye.